Tonight, could Daredevil Season 3 be coming even sooner than we expected? And wait, why do we have to stay through the end of the credits at Venom? We'll find out that, but really what we're going to talk about this week, all the spoilers for all 10 episodes of Iron Fist Season 2. Marvel TV Weekly starts now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Oh, should we light them up? Why not? Because everybody can have Iron Fists now. That's right. We're going to talk about all the spoilers for Season 2 of Iron Fist. And Zia and I also do the after show for Iron Fist, and we're doing 3 episodes at a time, and we have to keep holding back. And I've seen all 10 episodes, as you know, if you saw Marvel TV Weekly last week. And it's just the whole time I've been like wanting to talk about it. And finally, we can talk about it in a few moments. But at first, welcome to Marvel TV Weekly. I'm Christian Bladt. This is Zia Landerson. And Amy Cassandra, MTZ.
Hi.
Over there on the far end. And yes, we are going to talk a lot about Iron Fist. And that finale, that WT finale, is if I could write it out, it would have been funnier. But anyway, it's a very WTF moment. And we will spend a lot of time talking about that and the season as a whole. And so if you're in the chat, share your thoughts, your hopes, and maybe for what you expect to happen in Season 3 of Iron Fist, if and when there is one. But first, we're going to talk about Season 3 of Daredevil because there was a little bit of some internet buzz earlier in the week that, of all places, Netflix Thailand posted a promo for Daredevil Season 3, and inside it says that it will be released on October 19th. And now, maybe that's just in Thailand. Maybe that's what they call fake news in this day and age. But there's a very real chance that we might get it then. Now, what I think is going to happen is that we'll actually have it before that, because it was also announced that there will be a Marvel TV panel at New York Comic-Con October 12th. Now, you may recall last year, and we talked about it on this show last year, they were going to have a Punisher panel, and the big surprise was going to be, hey, everybody, you just watched 2 episodes. Now go home and watch the rest, because Punisher drops tonight. And then, unfortunately, there was a mass shooting, and so they decided that that was obviously not the right tone to take, so then they didn't do that. But now I feel like Marvel/Netflix want to do that again. Zia, are you excited at the idea that maybe, just maybe, we might get Daredevil in less than a month?
Yes. I wasn't expecting it so soon.
Yeah.
It's in perfect time. I don't know why, but I feel like that would be great for Halloween.
That's true. He's a devil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amy, what do you think of my detective work to try and come up with the reason why maybe Netflix Thailand is onto something?
This is very, very good detective work, I would say. And if it's true, I think you'd be amazing if it was true.
Well, then maybe I could start working for Alias Investigations. Just to tie it into your favorite, Jessica Jones.
That'd be crazy.
Who's on my shirt? Because I have, for those watching, I have all the Defenders. Sorry, I have all the Defenders. Let me lean as far away from the microphone as possible. That's a good idea.
But you do have to show your shirt.
It's true. It's very important to show the shirt, especially when you have all the Defenders on it. Anyway, so we will see if that's right, and hopefully we start to hear more in the next couple weeks. But as we've talked about on this show, all indications, Daredevil Season 3 is going to be at least some form of adaptation of the Born Again storyline that Frank Miller did from Daredevil 227 to 233. And it will feature Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, very heavily in the season. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I hope we get it that soon. One other thing that there has been some talk about is that they're really pushing, hey, Marvel fans, make sure that you stay to the end credits of Venom for something. Now, I'm going to ask Amy, if the end credit sequence in Venom is not an appearance by Spider-Man, Tom Hardy, how mad are you going to be?
Really mad.
Are you going to be Venom mad and maybe bite somebody's head off?
Yeah, with all the teeth.
Yeah,
I think it's about time. We already know not a lot of information, but like we've already gotten a tease about Far From Home, so give it to us, guys. You know what the fans want. Just give it to us.
Yeah, I think so. And do you think, well, Zia, first of all, there's no surprise. I don't know. I think anytime you see most movies these days, especially comic book movies, you should always wait for that end credit scene, right, Zia?
Oh yeah, I don't think I've ever. Whenever I see people getting up and leaving the theater right when the movie ends, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, like, don't you know?
Come on, guys.
It's just the first superhero movie you've ever seen?
And even if it's funny because I find myself actually doing it in regular movies now.
Oh, I do too. Yeah.
At the end, I'm like, oh.
I'm like, no, I have to see who the best boy was, where are all the key grips, I
They're
need to see everything.
important too.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. But funny enough, they're doing it now with Netflix too. I mean, the end of
Iron Fist
Iron
had
Fist.
the teaser for Daredevil season 3.
Mm-hmm.
So let us know in the chat if you're excited and what you think the bonus scene might be. Or maybe we're going to see Spider-Man earlier in the movie, by the way. Is anybody talking about Venom there in the chat?
Not yet, but
Okay.
we do have Star Drew says, what is it with no ticket sales right now, 2 weeks before October 5th?
That's interesting because I thought you could buy tickets already. Or maybe it depends on your theater chain.
You know what? I didn't think so because I tried to get, or I'm, obviously looking out for them. I don't have them yet, so.
You don't have your Venom
I don't
tickets?
have my Venom
No, I
tickets.
actually don't
Do
have
you?
Venom
Okay.
tickets either now. Because I usually go like Friday afternoon, so I don't have
so
to
you're
worry about it.
fine.
Yeah, I'll be fine. I haven't been shut out of a movie actually ever. So, but I understand the concern, especially people who want to see it like Thursday night for the early premiere. One other thing to talk about before we really dive into Iron Fist season 2, and I'm very excited about that, is that. Next week's episode of this show, we're going to take some time and we're going to recap season 1 of The Gifted. Now, Kari is not here tonight because she is 1 on assignment and 2 she hadn't finished Iron Fist, so she didn't feel like it was.
Really fast. This is Brianna in the booth. I was just looking up for you guys, and it looks like Venom tickets are on sale on Fandango.
Look
They
at
are on
that,
sale.
Fandango.
Well, I was
Thank
going
you,
to say
Bree.
also on AMC.
And
Brianna
Amy.
and Amy. You know
Okay.
what? Star Drew's in Canada. I do know that's a fact.
okay.
And look, I love Canada. I love your home and native land, but maybe you're not able to buy tickets yet. So, you might have
Well, I
to
better
maybe
get on it
drive
then.
across the border and go see it in Buffalo or something. I don't know. Actually, I don't know what part of Canada he's in. Anyway, Kari's not here tonight, but she has been on this panel essentially from the beginning. So she and I will definitely bring everybody up to speed on The Gifted season 1. Now, Zia and Amy, you guys haven't seen any episodes of The Gifted at this point. So I'm trying to say you should just start with season 2.
Okay.
And Kari and I, for the sake of both Amy and Zia, but also everybody in the audience, just a little reminder, or if it's like, oh, I tried it and I didn't like it, which I completely understand if you were watching the show from the beginning, you know that I was not a huge Gifted fan when it started, but I am excited for this season. I think this is going to be a good time to start the show, and we will try and bring everybody up to speed because that premieres, well, not this week, but it'll be next week. So that's why we'll talk about it on next week's show.
Wow.
So, barring any other surprise news that shows up, let's talk more about Marvel's Iron Fist season 2. Now, last week on this show, we talked about episodes 1 through 4, and mere minutes ago, Zia and I finished our Iron Fist after show, and we've talked up through episode 6. And if you want to see the Iron Fist after show, there's already 2 episodes that are archived on YouTube and on iTunes, and you'll also be able to see our final 2 episodes Wednesday at 10 and next Sunday at 9, right before this show. So like we're about to talk about the season as a whole, next Sunday we're going to dive in and really sort of analyze, especially the end there. But let's start off, Amy, season as a whole and your thoughts, highs, and definitely any lows that you have, just your thoughts on Iron Fist season 2.
Okay. Highs would definitely have to be is the fact that they really stepped it up this season in every single way. Definitely freaking Colleen. From the beginning, though, I would say that not even, like the last couple of episodes, I think that they really used her to her full potential. Bringing Misty back. I always like it when there's some kind of crossover. I don't need everyone to, join forces at all times, but just a little something. That was definitely a high. Yeah, I guess the lows are positive lows because Davos was annoying, but like in a good way. It's just like, stop. But good for him because you're not supposed to be rooting for him. So yeah, just Yeah.
The interesting thing, and Zia knows where I'm going with this, is Emmanuel Wright, who is on our after show for Iron Fist, is actually hardcore Team Davos, does not like Danny, and he just feels like, and I'm sort of like notching, where he is in the conversation, because as you get through season 6, he's not quite like homicidal maniac. He's just a little bit of a psycho. He's still trying to do good. So I'm like, all right, at one point you have to stop being Team Davos. But it's like we talked about with Bushmaster and Killmonger. There's like a point where you're like, no, their intentions start from a good place. The problem with Davos is that he has his mommy issues and his daddy issues, and he's like, wah, I want the Iron Fist. I didn't get it. You didn't stop me from it, but I'm going to blame you because I can't really stand up to my mom and dad. So there are a lot of those issues wrapped up in Davos. He has a point in that Danny didn't actually win the fight. He was just declared able to go on and fight the dragon. What do you think about Davos sort of as the whole, Zia? Basically we're talking about the whole season as a whole now.
Well, yeah, you said it. He was when he came in the first season, you could tell he was upset, but he was still with Danny. He was just mad that he wouldn't come back to Kunlun. And in season 2, completely goes away from that reasoning why he doesn't like him and goes into all that other stuff. So when he came in season 1, he was already feeling all of that and just decided to exact his plan because he couldn't get him back to Kunlun, which made me think, was he taking him back so he could steal the power of the Iron Fist from him there?
I think in season 1, he had faith that Danny was deserving of the Iron Fist and he just lost his way and be like, look, you got to come back and defend Kunlun because that's your job. And then when we see what happened to Kunlun, or we sort of get a hint of what happened because Kunlun's super expensive and we'll probably never really see it. We sort of get a feeling for what happened. Then he was just angry that he wasn't there to do it. And he's like, well, I'm a better Iron Fist than you. I'm going to have to take it. So I assume that that's where he came from in season 1. But let us know in the chat if you think otherwise.
Black Magic 99 says Davos becomes such a zealous fanatic.
Yeah, I think that he definitely gets really carried away, and I think that there is the crybaby factor for sure, and in a lot of ways it's a very similar blueprint for Killmonger and Black Panther because it's the same thing. You take away the power from the person that you feel like has the thing that you want, and there's a lot of parallels with these sort of not reasonable villains, but they're at least reasoned in their own way. And then they always hit a point where you're like, no.
Right, because you would feel bad for Davos just looking at the way his mother treated him and looking at his past. You can empathize with him and you can feel bad for him. But you're right. He gets to a point where you're like, okay, I can't with you anymore. This is ridiculous. You're being a crybaby.
It's funny though because the similarities between Killmonger and Davos are there, but I love Killmonger so much.
And I liked Bushmaster a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I like Bushmaster.
Yeah.
Well, and there's something to be said that now Netflix, Marvel, they're not killing off their villains, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Luke Cage, they killed off pretty much everybody except Bushmaster.
Right.
So thankfully they saved him. But yeah, when they killed off Cottonmouth in season 1 of Luke Cage, they kind of lost me for that whole season, the rest of the season, because I loved it so much up until that point. And then I was like, no, Diamondback just wasn't the same, So yeah, I think it's good to kind of keep these villains. Look, we just talked about we're going to have Wilson Fisk in season 3 of Daredevil, and that's such an important part of the Daredevil mythos or mythos, either way, however you want to say it. So we'll sort of go on and talk a little bit more about the season. But first, we have a very important message from Amy Cassandra Martinez.
Hi, AfterBuzzers! Our network produces after shows for nearly all of your favorite TV shows. From dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more, there is no network that works harder to serve television fans like you. But we do need your help. We're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. By subscribing to our channel, YouTube will suggest content that's tailor-made for just you, and you'll help us continue to grow. And if you're worried about pesky notifications, don't be, because they're totally optional. So all you need to do is hit that subscribe button right now for this channel and check out our other AfterBuzz YouTube channels as well. Let us know you did so in the comments down below right there, and we'll thank you on air. That rhymes. For now, thanks for being the best fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV talk.
And if you subscribe to this channel, which is superheroes, sci-fi,
superheroes, and more.
And fantasy, I think.
And more.
You would also be subscribed to the Iron Fist After Show, which Z and I are on. And Amy was in our first episode as a special guest panelist.
Yes, thank you very much.
So there's a lot of talk about Iron Fist. At some point, Z and I won't be able to talk about anything else. We're spending so much time talking about Iron Fist, but that's all right. We're very happy about it. One thing that I want to make sure that I get to before we really talk about some of the other characters this season is there's a comment that Misty makes at the end of the season, and she says that she might bling out her next arm. And I wanted to mention that that's because in the comics there is a point where she has a gold bionic arm. So maybe we'll get to see that.
Blinged out.
You know, I'd like to see her have like different attachments and things. You know,
she
different
changes.
arms
One
for
with
different
a sword?
situations. Oh my gosh, the sword.
Sword arm.
All right, now that sounds like a little too Sharknado,
that'd be
but
cool,
I do
though.
think it would be cool.
I got excited.
I'll see what you think about this. So for me, what I really liked about season 2 of Iron Fist is there is this feeling that Danny has that he earned the Iron Fist by defeating Xiao, the dragon. He's told us all about this many times in Kunlun. He beat the dragon great. But he doesn't know that even though he earned it, he still doesn't know if he deserves it. And it's this whole idea that it's very hard to have, as Spider-Man will tell us, with great power comes great responsibility. And it's one thing to have the responsibility weigh on you, but then you doubt yourself. And I think that our best superheroes do that. It's another universe. And it's not a movie that everybody loves, but the one thing that I thought really worked about Zack Snyder's Man of Steel movie is this idea for Superman. He's just like, oh man, I got to do all this. I'm just a guy, you know, like I have to do everything. And Danny is just like, remember, in a lot of ways, Danny's still like a 15-year-old kid. And he's like, I've got all this pressure. Matt Murdock wants me to defend his city. And I've got like superpowers. So at first, when he doesn't, and we're talking about all the spoilers, it's in the title. When he says that he doesn't want the Iron Fist back and he wants Colleen to take it, I'm like, are you out of your freaking mind?
That's what I said.
You need
Really?
it.
Yes.
But
I was
then,
like, no.
As he explains it, and I understand why she's like, no, that's you, that's your thing, you know. It's gonna be a little awkward for our relationship if you're like, no, you take it. And it started to make sense. And if there's somebody who is deserving of it, it would certainly be Colleen. And I found it to just be this far more philosophical sort of debate in the course of the series. It's really an internal debate that Danny's having. I just wasn't sort of expecting it, and I thought it was really interesting, you know, just as he weighs these options. Zia, what do you think sort of about this idea that Danny has that he doesn't know if he really deserves being the Iron Fist?
I do get where he's coming from because of the way that he explained it. That's what he was looking for to fill a void, and that's not the most healthy reason to do anything, really.
Yeah.
So I understand why he's trying to go off and become whole as himself before he decides whether he's ready for the Iron Fist. Totally get it. Totally understand. On the same same thought. No, sir, you are the Iron Fist.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that it's great to have the doubt. I fully expected throughout the course of the episode, the whole season, I expected him to get it back, even after he says, Colleen, I want you to have it. Mm-hmm. I thought at one point he was going to have to do it out of necessity. You know, when the transfer between Colleen and Davos doesn't happen, I thought Danny was going to have to step in and just take it because he didn't want Davos to have it. I thought there were a lot of reasons why I thought. So the fact that the main body of the timeline that we're in, we're not talking about the end sequence just yet, but we're going to spend a lot of time talking about it. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about that part yet, where he still just doesn't have it. I was really surprised that it ended that way. Amy, what did you sort of think about this whole debate and then the fact that Danny, at least in the main body of the episode, ends up, he still doesn't have the Iron Fist?
I was on the opposite side of you guys, I would say. When he started saying that, I was like, yeah, you're totally right. Give it to Colleen. She can do a much better job. She might be hesitant, but I'm all here for it. For sure. I was on board right away.
And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I will have to point out why our very own Zia could very well be the Iron Fist. If you show, yep, there it is.
You see it?
It's a weird. It's at an awkward angle.
It is at a weird
Just
spot.
like, and when I told Zia this, when Colleen got the tattoo on her arm, I was like, yes, so Zia could be the next Iron Fist. And
Why
there you
doesn't
go.
my fist slide up?
Yeah,
If I focus
it
really
could.
hard,
It's only like
really
when it's super
hard.
dark.
We'll fix it
She
in post.
secretly is. This
Yeah.
has been. It's her dark secret. It's not dark secret.
So let's talk about that moment where it's at the end of episode 9 where we see the white Iron Fist, which I thought was cool.
thought that was cool.
And I don't know. I expected it to never take. I just didn't think she was going to get it at all. I just thought that's, look, these sort of stories happen all the time, Superhero doesn't want it. Somebody else gets it, goes back, I just thought all that. But it was really refreshing. And as I was talking to you ladies beforehand, something that never happened in the comics, Colleen being the Iron Fist. And there are people who are very upset about that. It's like, that never happened in the comics. To which I say, well, that's great that it never happened in the comics. I love that it never happened in the comics because they're telling their own stories. There's a lot of things that don't happen in the comics. I like when they're inspired by what happens, but I think that it's such a cool moment to see Colleen right when she first gets it. And obviously, there's some difficulty, but the fight she has with Davos where they basically knock each other out because they both still have the Iron Fist.
I like that.
That was one of my favorite moments in the whole season. Right up there with the Crane Sister tattoo parlor fight in episode 6.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think about basically all of this? All about Colleen having the Iron Fist and using it, Zia?
Well, I think that she's very greatly equipped for it, and I'd like to see her skills. I mean, think about her in the cage. I would love to see her skills come out more with the Iron Fist, and I think you mentioned this before. She had the Iron Fist and the sword.
Yeah.
Also an awesome combination. This isn't going to happen, but I would like to see her behead some people, possibly.
Wow. You went dark.
I just think that would be so cool.
Well, she's already. I don't think she
did
got
it
a taste
once.
for it after Bakudo.
No,
I think
that really bumped her out.
it made her basically go into retirement.
It did.
So
It did.
I don't know but sometimes you got to take off a head.
Yeah.
So
but under the condition that Danny is also the Iron Fist, it would bother me if he's not after this. He didn't get it much in season 1. Season 1 was not great for the Iron Fist for him. It was in the Defenders, and he got it for like half of season 2.
if even it was like a it was like a third of season two. Yeah, and he doesn't have it back. So and let us know in the chat what you think about sort of all this debate as to whether or not Danny's worth it. How do you feel about Colleen getting it? If you're upset that Colleen got it, please let us know. Just because we think it's cool doesn't mean everybody has to. We always welcome the differing viewpoints and all this.
Black Magic says she can be behead without the fist. LMAO. It's a sword. No, I know. I'm just with the ferocity of
that's a serious beheading
would be cool.
with the iron fist channeled through your sword. Yeah, so we can backtrack and talk about more things that we liked about the season, but we've sort of been tap dancing around it. Let's talk about that crazy ending sequence and where we see a few months later is basically what they tell us. And I'm like, okay, what's this going to be? And I thought it was going to end when we see Colleen with the sword, and as you're talking about, and she's channeling her white iron fist through it. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And I'm like, oh, wait. No, look, Ward and Danny are on holiday. They're off seeking Iron Fist related items, and we get a couple of things in here which is really important. One of which is the reference to a man named Orson Randall, and Orson Randall is a previous Iron Fist. And as is established by Ed Brubaker, the comic book author in, I believe, The Immortal Iron Fist, Danny is the 66th person in the comic books. This is only in the comic books. 66th person to have the Iron Fist. And Orson Randall had it. Basically, he was a World War I vet, and he had it from 1915 to 1933. So this is someone who has basically... there's a term I'm looking for. He's rooted in the comic books. He exists. There's a foundation there. And he's the one who figured out how to channel his chi into a pair of guns. So Danny is wearing the belt with the guns that we know Orson Randall from in the comic books. Now, there's some differing accounts of this crazy sequence where Danny shoots the guns and we see him channel the Iron Fist and shoot it. Now, there's a lot to break down there. My first question is, Amy, and Z, I'll ask you the exact same question after. Do you think Danny is channeling the Iron Fist, or is it the belt and the guns that have some sort of way to simulate the Iron Fist? Do you think he has the Iron Fist back? I did not mean to stump you.
Well, I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't make sense for only him to have it back, for only Danny to have it back after everything that Colleen went through, because it doesn't make sense. And she still has it.
And the impression is she still has it.
So that means that they could both have it.
And Davos could still have it.
And Davos could still have it. Yes, then. Yes.
So you think he has it?
Yes, I think they all have it.
Zia, what do you think? And I'll share my theory in a moment.
That's what I was thinking as well. I was thinking that he also had it and that he would then go back and they would be Iron Fist together. Although, and I just assumed that, but thought that he found another way to get it when he was there. And that's what he went searching for. And that's why they're searching for other Iron Fists.
Right. And because we saw that there is in, what is it, episode 4 with the Hancock 212 shipping container, there is a body of an Iron Fist. And they use that for Davos to be able to get it from Danny. So whether in the Netflix universe there are 65 previous Iron Fists or not, the idea is there could be other people who had it, there could be other bodies. But my thinking is that it's sort of like the Wizard of Oz. Well, you had the power to go home all along. I think that somewhere in Danny, he still had the Iron Fist. It's just that moment when it first got taken away, he wasn't sure how to access it, and he really got thrown off. Look, it's well established on the show. He has a lot of problems with his chi. He has to really find his chi a little bit more often. So I think that we will maybe find out that actually he had it. Maybe not, but I do think he has it. One of the theories is that the belt has it and the gun. I think that he has it, and you see that he has it in both hands.
Yeah.
And then it channels to the bullets, and then he shoots. And that's such a crazy moment. And I'm just like, well, I need season 3 right now.
Can I just say how much I love the gun element of it?
Yeah.
Like gunslinging. So cool. Oh my gosh. I hope we get some of that.
Yeah, I hope we get some of it too.
We get a lot of it.
And by the way, there are no indications that there will be a season 3 of Iron Fist. Even, I was telling Z this beforehand, Luke Cage doesn't officially have an order for season 3 from Netflix. I do know people who are working on it, and they're actually pretty far along. So if Netflix doesn't want it, it'll probably turn up somewhere. And I feel like that would happen with Iron Fist too, but there's no guarantees that we're going to get it. And after the way that this ended, I'll be so disappointed. I don't know about any of you out there. We probably all have that show that, the creators knew that it didn't have a good chance of coming back. So they threw everything at the wall and went for a crazy finale because they would want everybody to want it to come back. And then it doesn't come back. And you're like, yeah, but what about all this cool stuff? So if we get Danny shooting the gun and then we don't get to see him again, I'll be very disappointed. I do think that this storyline would be tied up on one of the other shows somehow. Misty makes a reference that she might need Colleen's help because the last time she saw Luke, he wasn't looking too good. And I would like to see Colleen take on Power Man Luke Cage. But
oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, because Danny would have a lot of trouble getting into an actual fight with him, even if he felt like he needed to be stopped. Colleen's like, yeah, whatever. All right. It's cool.
That is something about Colleen that I really like. She's more objective.
Yeah.
With things. Although there was one moment in this season that I was not happy with her.
What's that?
When she wouldn't teach Danny, and then when she finally did decide to teach Danny, she's like, this is going to change everything between us and blah, blah, blah. I don't know if our relationship is going to survive. And I was like, no, Colleen, you control that. It wouldn't change unless you wanted it to. You control everything. You can teach him and still, you know what I mean? That was the one moment where I was like, no.
But, well, we'll see.
I don't know.
There's so much to see.
There's so much, yeah.
Yeah. I found it to be very interesting that I like how Danny talked Ward into taking this little trip with him, sort of, before we do the jump of a few months.
That.
And just like, literally Danny's like, what else do you have to do? Literally everything around you has gone to, well, crap. Like, come on, let's go. And I just sort of like them being, on adventures. And I hope we get those stories, by the way, because you can jump but several months ahead. Who knows how many months? I like that they kept it vague. But I want to fill in all that time. I want to know everything that happens,
Christian Jackson says, I love Ward pretending to be drunk. I thought it was going to end on Ward falling off the wagon. I like that part too. I did think, though, that he was, doing something with Danny there. And I love their little dynamic in the bar. That was so fun.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. It was sort of like a great moment. Ward was trying to handle it himself, and Danny's like, oh, come on. And, as we're talking about the guns and Danny channeling them, they do reference that it was something that they stole from a shipment of Orson Randall's, and Orson Randall, it turns out, is the one who shipped that canister to Davos, which is interesting because why is he sending this to Davos? So I hope we can really find out. We really get to explore this in season 3 or at some other point. So anyway, there's really so much to know, and I don't know when we're going to get to see it.
Ooh,
yes.
Sorry.
No, please.
Just one
Nothing to be
other
sorry
thought
about.
that I had that I love too. Another weird. This is just a random aspect, and maybe it's just because I'm a girl. Really loved. Not Colleen. Misty. Crushing on Ward a little bit there.
That was actually really, I forgot about that.
I liked that. I was like, oh, go Misty. Yes.
Yeah. And as we've talked about on this show and on the Iron Fist after show, Misty and Danny are an item in the comic books, and Ward is a little bit more of a nefarious character in the comics. So I sort of like that they've won us over towards him. Z and I were talking about on the Iron Fist after show that they did a really good job with Ward this season and making him likable or at least sympathetic. There are definitely unlikable things about him, but he's trying. Joy, I think they went the other way. I think I liked her last season. And then it's just like, oh no, look at all these terrible things you did to like literally the nicest guy that you'll ever meet. Poor Danny Rand.
Didn't even question her when she wanted to, leave the company, and he was just, is this what you really want? Signed it over. Okay. Still doing what's best for her.
So the other interesting revelation in all of this is the backstory for Colleen's mother. And the fact that Danny saw the Iron Fist on that medallion, whatever that, that crest was. And this is something that they also have in the comics, and I have to look at my screen so that I can try and say Wu Ao Shi, the pirate queen of Pinghai Bay, because that's not going to roll off the tongue if I'm not looking at it. But it's not a fairy tale. She was a hero from Kunlun, and she did indeed have the power of the Iron Fist. So this is Colleen's mother. So the fact that Colleen has the Iron Fist can channel it into a sword, and Danny has the Iron Fist, it could all make sense if we get it all explained to us, that it could be something that, look, Davos thought it was his birthright, but you know what? Davos's parents weren't the Iron Fist. Colleen's mom was the Iron Fist, at least judging from what we have in the comic books. So a little confusing, very far-fetched. But Amy, what do you think about all this?
Well, I think it's great. It slightly reminds me a little bit of Harry Potter.
Does everything remind you of Harry Potter?
Everything
I
back
think
to Harry
everything
Potter.
goes back to Harry Potter.
It really does, kind of like the whole Harry Potter Neville Longbottom thing.
Neville could have been chosen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it could have
him.
been Colleen. I love that. I don't know if we want to get into this now, but Mary.
We should talk about Mary. Yeah.
Okay, because
there's
was
something
crazy.
about Mary.
There is
Thank
something
you.
about
Thank you
great,
very
great
much.
job.
Thanks. I'm happy with that.
Because like when at the end, I think it's Walker's talking and she's trying to figure out like basically there's another part. There's a
third altar.
Yes.
And I do like sort of the exchange with Ward where she's like, "Did you read this?" He's like, "Well, I didn't think it was any of my business." And she's like, "Good move."
Yeah.
Which I think Ward knows enough dealing with these kind of people. It's like, "Yeah, I'm not reading that. I don't want to know anything about what's in there. You go ahead and do." And that Bloody Mary is the third personality of Typhoid Mary, which is something that is canon from the comic books, that there are multiples. There are at least 3. And this would be sort of, there's the criticism. There's someone wrote this in the chat, either on this show, or I think it might have been the Iron Fist panel, that they didn't like that Typhoid Mary didn't look like Typhoid Mary. We haven't actually seen Typhoid Mary yet. This is Walker and then just sweet little innocent Mary from Wisconsin, or at least she thinks she's from Wisconsin. She's probably not from Wisconsin, but anyway.
She doesn't know where she's from.
She has no idea. But so we haven't seen that yet. So I don't look, and typically we don't get really cool costumes on these shows. Daredevil has a cool costume. No one else really has a costume.
True.
Danny will not wear that mask no matter how much I want him to. Just in flashbacks. Yeah. Danny, wear the mask. I want that yellow mask on his head.
Something.
Yeah,
you know?
I just want it. But so I think that, you know, it's something that we're going to have to wait for. But I wonder, are we going to see her in a Daredevil season? Maybe even season 3, by the way, because she is a Daredevil character. Would we have to wait for another season of Iron Fist? Who knows? What did you think about that reveal, since you're the one who brought it up, Amy, the idea that there is a third alter for Walker / Mary / Bloody Mary / Typhoid Mary?
I thought it was great, and I think it really opens up. I mean, I know, like you said, we don't know if we're gonna have a season 3, but there are so many things ready, like set up, ready to go for a season 3, and even just for her character to flourish even more than she did throughout this whole season. I mean, that's one of the characters where you're like, you guys did a great job. She really, really was mostly developed at the end, and then we find out, hey, there's someone else here. But yeah, it was also kind of terrifying.
Yeah, I like the way that Walker finds out from Mary sort of this. Oh, by the way, shout out for that terrible instance of Walker / Mary's confinement happening in Sokovia, which is, of course, from the Marvel movie universe, the Sokovia Accords, Age of Ultron, all that. So I was just like, yeah, it could have happened anywhere in the world. But why not throw us a little bone? Everybody who watches this show and the Iron Fist After Show knows how much I appreciate those little tidbits. So I thought that was great. But I think that reveal was actually really cool. The way that Walker's like, wait a minute, you didn't do that? Well, I didn't do that. And who else did this? You know? So I think it's interesting. And that flashback to what happened to Mary, where she just sort of came to and was like, well, I'm just covered in blood and I don't know what happened. I really think it's such a rich character development, which we got out of so many of the characters this season. You know, I think that even though Emmanuel Wright, our co-panelist on the Iron Fist After Show, not a big Danny fan, I felt like we really got to explore who Danny Rand is. And to him, it was important to be who he is without the Iron Fist, because he talked about having to go back and, you know, why he kept just beating up on that door, because he needed to use it. And I like that connection with Ward, where Ward was like, I go to all these meetings and this is the first time where I feel like I can identify with addiction, you know, like what it's like, because he was literally addicted to that. So we had so much exploration of so many of these characters. I think it would be a crime if we don't get a season 3 of Iron Fist. Let us know in the chat if you agree or disagree. And if you're watching live, let us know in the chat. If you're watching the archive, let us know as well. And we'll throw some of the comments in to a future episode of this show. Amy, what do you most want to see from a season 3? Do you just want to have it all explained? Because what the finale?
What the finale?
What the finale?
Nice. Yes, I do want it all explained. I just want Colleen kicking butt. A lot of that. Although, okay, so I don't know if you guys felt this way, but when her fist turned white, I was like, oh, kind of slightly reminds me of Dagger.
I really thought you were going to say Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So,
although Lumos.
but you're right. It is like what
Lord
Dagger
Thorns.
does when she has the dagger. So yeah, that's true.
And then the part where her and Davos like
Where they punch each other.
It's just like, and the way they reacted and everything was
It's like Cloak and Dagger. I didn't come up with any of that. Good for you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Watching far better than I was. I was just trying to power through it because I needed to know what happened. I was like, I will not go to sleep until I finish this.
Well, and also the fact that it was 10 episodes, it just really, really worked. And I felt a sense of accomplishment also because it's like, we made it. Like 10 episodes, not too long. I enjoyed myself throughout all of it. And I feel like the characters were well done. Everything was just well done. And I was like, good job. Like, yay. I know we didn't make it, but like, we're fans. So
we made it
job.
through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the Defenders at 8 episodes, I felt cheated. And some of those 13 episode seasons are a bit of a slog. Yes. Not all of them, but some of them have been. So, yeah, Zia, what do you think sort of about where we ought to go next, what you'd be most excited about seeing in a season 3 if we get it?
What I would really love to see is a bit of a Danny, Colleen, Misty team up. I would love to see them working together. I think that'd be really fun, especially if she has a blinged out arm. He's got guns. She has a sword. I mean, I think that that'd be such a cool dynamic, and we might see a little bit of Luke Cage in there.
Yeah, well, that's the Heroes for Hire season that I have heard from semi-reliable sources that there are plans to do that at some point, not like it's on a timeline like this will be the 3 series from now. It is something that they plan to do as long as Netflix and Marvel continue to want to keep paying for these series. In addition to there being more Iron Fist, being more Luke Cage, being more everything, they also want to do a Heroes for Hire, which would involve all of them. So I would also like to see Daughters of the Dragon with just Colleen and Misty.
Yes.
But we might not get just that. We might first get Heroes for Hire. But I want all of it. I want all they can't do enough of these, right?
Yes, the part, okay, so when Colleen and Misty were standing next to each other and they were just like, yeah, this was fun. Like, this was great. We got to work together, blah, blah, blah. And then they were talking about, like joining forces. And they're like, Misty or Nightwing. Yes, Nightwing has a ring to it. And I was like, yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
What can you give us? Give us something.
Up for a PI.
Yeah, and I look, I think it is something that we very well could get. And I think they're definitely teasing you with a lot of things. Because, look, we've said several times in this episode, Iron Fist season 3 is not a done deal. So they wanted to give you as much excitement about like, well, yeah, I need that, and look, we know I enjoyed Iron Fist season 1, a lot of people less so. I think that there were a lot less people at the end of season 1 of Iron Fist who said, man, I cannot wait for season 2 of Iron Fist. And I think you have a lot more people who are saying that after season 2. What are they talking about in the chat, Zia?
Oh, let's see. We've got Seb Bress says, I'd love a character trade with HFH, Danny plus Luke, and Daughters of the Dragon with Colleen and Misty. Yeah.
Yeah, we could get all these series. That's fine. Yeah, I'm fine with that. But I want to, like I said, I want to see all of it. So we'll see what we get, and we'll kind of keep our ear on the tracks, and hopefully we'll get some more news about more of it.
Ooh.
All we know is after Daredevil, we will also get a season 2 of The Punisher. After that, there's expectations of we should get more Luke Cage, we should get more Jessica Jones, but no announcements yet. What's happening in the chat? You seem excited.
I just like this. Yeah, Ghost8386, I really like this. Says, I want to see Orson Randall teach Danny Rand the history of Iron Fist in Iron Fist season 3.
Yeah, I think if he is able to meet a former Iron Fist, and we'll see whether or not Orson Randall still has the Iron Fist, maybe he's just too old to do anything with it, or if he has passed it on. It's interesting. We'll have to see how that works. But it would be great because I think he would, if he learns a lot about the history and how to use it, I think Danny could be a much better Iron Fist. And, he's still it's very early in the process as we meet him in this series. So we're going to have to wait, though, and see all of that in the future. And I don't really know when we're going to get it. And that's going to drive me crazy. But anyway, as I said, leave comments in the archive version here on the show, and we will look at it in a future week. I feel like we just kind of ran through all of that because it was so crazy, but we were so excited to share it with all of you. Let us know what you think. And in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. And Zia, where do people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Zia_land. It's XIA_LAND.
And Amy.
You guys can find me on all social media at Amy Cassandra MT. TZ.
And our very own Kari Lane at Kari D Lane will be back with us next week, and we will do our best to get you ready for season 2 of The Gifted, which will be back in about a week and a half. So we will see you then. But until next week, Excelsior!
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.